dear students, myself Gangadhar Solanke, and I welcome you all to the MCGM's virtual classroom.
My dear students, today in Standard 6 History, we'll be learning the chapter Ancient India and the World. This one is the 11th chapter of our history textbook, and which one is the last chapter of our history textbook. In our 6th Standards History, we people learned about history of ancient India. As we know, history is divided into three parts to understand it easily. That is history of ancient India, then history of medieval period, and then history of modern India. So in the 6th standards history, we people learnt about history of ancient India, and in that our first chapter was the Indian subcontinent and history. Then in sources of history, we people learned that how to use different sources, or what are the different sources of history, to learn more about history through the sources or by using authentic sources. Then the Harappan civilization, then the Vedic civilization. Fifth one was religious trends in ancient India. Then in sixth one, Janpadas and Mahajanpadas. Then India during the Maurya period. Eighth chapter was states up to the Maurya Empire. Ninth one, ancient kingdoms of the south. 10th and the last chapter which we learned was ancient India cultural. And now we're at the last chapter of our history textbook, that is ancient India and the world. As the heading of our history textbook is history of ancient India. Now we are going to study about the relation of ancient India with the world, or with the countries of the world. So the points which we are going to cover in this topic are India and the countries of the West. इंडिया एंड द कंट्रीज ऑफ द वेस्ट, विच मीन्स दैट जो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज है उनके साथ इंडिया का एंशियंट पीरियड में किस तरह से रिलेशन था, ट्रेड क्या था, कल्चरल कुछ रिलेशन था क्या. देन द पॉइंट इंडिया एंड अदर कंट्रीज इन एशिया. सो वन बाय वन विल स्टार्ट हियर. एंड द फर्स्ट पॉइंट, इंडिया एंड द कंट्रीज ऑफ द वेस्ट. पीपल of the Harappan civilization had developed trade relations. People of the Harappan civilization had developed trade relations with the countries of the West. About this, you people already learned in the 5th standard EVS part 2 how we came to be. In that, the last chapter of the textbook of 5th standards EVS was historic period. In that, we people learnt about the Harappan civilization and how trade relations were there with the countries of the West. Ever since then, India has economic and cultural exchanges with the outside world. So it was from the period of Harappan civilization that the cultural and the economic exchanges were there. नाउ जब इकोनॉमिक एक्सचेंजेस होते हैं, यहाँ के कुछ प्रोडक्ट वहाँ जाते हैं, वहाँ के कुछ प्रोडक्ट यहाँ आते हैं, तो क्या होता है कि जो इन चीज़ों का आदान प्रदान करने वाले लोग हैं वो भी इस जगह से वहाँ जाते हैं, वहाँ से यहाँ आते हैं, और फिर बहुत सालों तक, महीनों तक वो यहाँ पर रहते हैं. सो दे केम विद देयर कल्चरल्स. वो सिर्फ आए नहीं, वो अपने कल्चर के साथ आए. एंड दैट इज व्हाई द सेंटेंस इज गिवन हियर, इवन सिंस देन. कब से? फ्रॉम द हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन, इंडिया हैज हैड economic and cultural exchanges with the outside world. In the map, this one you can see easily here, here and here. Buddhism had spread to Afghanistan and to many countries of Central Asia. During the ancient period, Buddhism actually attracted many people from the world towards India, or the many philosophers, or the people who were interested in the religious things, or the philosophy of Buddha attracted many people around the world towards India. And today also people are very much curious about Buddha and the literature of the Buddha and the philosophy of the Buddha, about the life. So during the period of the Iranian Empire, During the period of Iranian Empire, India's contact with the Western world increased. Here you can see the things. Buddha. The Greek historians of that period grew more curious about India. Their writings introduced India to the Western world. The Greek historians, those who are uh, wrote about India, about the culture of India, about the trade of the India. So those writings introduced India to the Western world. The routes which were later used by Alexander were open for trade between India and the countries of the West. अलेक्जेंडर ने जो रास्ता यूज़ किया था भारत में आने के लिए, वो रास्ता बाद में ट्रेड के लिए खोला गया, ट्रेड के लिए ओपन हुआ सबके लिए. So here on the map you can see the empire of Alexander the Great. And the things related with Alexander. Under the influence of Greek art sculpture, a new form of art emerged in India during the Kushana period. Under the influence of the Greek art sculpture, a new form of art emerged in India during the Kushana period, and it is called गांधार स्कूल ऑफ आर्ट. क्या कहा जाता था इसे? गांधार स्कूल ऑफ आर्ट, विच वॉज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय द ग्रीक आर्ट. In the Gandhar art school, images of Gautam Buddha were mainly carved. Here you can see. और ये जो फॉर्म था वो बेसिक ग्रीक स्कल्पचर का फॉर्म था, उसका एक टाइप था. एज दिस इमेजेस वर मोस्टली फाउंड इन द गांधार रीजन ऑफ अफगानिस्तान. एक जगह है अफगानिस्तान में गांधार. द स्टाइल इज कॉल्ड गांधार स्टाइल. क्यों गांधार स्टाइल कहा जा रहा है इसे? बिकॉज गांधार इज द प्लेस और रीजन इन द अफगानिस्तान. उसके आजू बाजू में ये सारे इमेजेस जो है वो मिले, दैट इज वाई इट इज कॉल्ड गांधार स्टाइल ऑफ आर्ट. The screen you can see a statue of Gautam Buddha which is in Gandhar style. The facial features of the statues made in this style are similar. The facial features of the statues made in this style are similar to those of the Greek people. The early coins that were minted in India were also like Greek coins. So on the screen you can see more details about Gandhar art. Gandhar art, named after the region of Gandhar, now which is in Pakistan, presents some of the earliest images of the Buddha and which were related or similar to those of the Greek people. The Gandhar style was profoundly influenced by 2D century Hellenistic art and was itself highly influential in Central and Eastern Asia. Gandhar school was based on Greco-Roman norms, encapsulating foreign techniques and an alien spirit. It is also known as Greco-Buddhist school of art. So basically here the word Gandhar art which we have to keep in mind and why it is called so. The screen now. Around the 1st or 2nd century, around the 1st or 2nd century CE, trade between India and Rome flourished. Basic thing here which we have to understand is that whenever there is, we can say, ट्रेड रिलेशन बिटवीन एनी टू कंट्रीज, तो वो सिर्फ ट्रेड रिलेशन नहीं होता है, इट इज़ द एक्सचेंज ऑफ कल्चरल थिंग्स एंड द वैल्यूज ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कल्चर. सो एंशियंट पीरियड में भी यही हुआ. जैसे जैसे अलग अलग जगहों से इंडिया के ट्रेड रिलेशन बनते गए तो यहाँ की कुछ चीज़ें वहाँ गई, वहाँ की कुछ चीज़ें यहाँ आई, एंड एक मिक्स्ड कल्चर फिर उसमें से आगे आया. सो अराउंड द 1st और 2nd century CE, trade between India and Rome flourished. The ports in South India. Ports in South India also had a large share in this trade. Some articles made of bronze were found in the excavations at Kolhapur. they have been made in Rome. Just think about this. रोम में बने हुए ब्रॉन्ज के कुछ आर्टिकल कोल्हापुर में मिले हैं, विच इज इन महाराष्ट्र. तो इससे हमें पता चलता है कि एंशियंट टाइम में जो ट्रेड हुआ करता था वो कितना अंदर अंदर तक देश के होता था. तमिलनाडु हैव आल्सो ब्रॉट टू लाइट मेनी आर्टिकल्स मेड इन रोम. Both these places were important centers of trade between India and Rome. So many such trade centers are mentioned in the literature of those times, which we consider as authentic source of history. So if we go through the literature of those times, then हमें ऐसे बहुत सारे reference मिलेंगे in which we can see that the trade relations between India and Rome. Here on the screen you can see the ancient maritime trade route between Alexandria and China. This one, this one. This is the India of that period. और ये रूट किस तरह से जा रहा है ये भी आप मैप में दे सकते हैं. Here also Rome and India, the ancient sea route. Here now the excavations at Arikamedu in Tamil Nadu, where the excavations at Arikamedu in Tamil Nadu have also brought to light many articles made in Rome. On the screen you can see this. And both these places were important centers of trade between India and Rome. Many such trade centers are mentioned in the literature of those times. Next one now in this. Alexandria was an important port in Egypt. Alexandria नाम का एक important port इजिप्ट में था. The Arab merchants carried Indian goods up to Alexandria. The Arab merchants carried Indian goods up to Alexandria, and from there they were sent to the countries in Europe. कहाँ पे लेके जा रहा है? अरब मर्चेंट्स पहले उसे अलेक्जेंड्रिया तक लेके जाते थे और वहां पे के जो मर्चेंट्स है वो फिर उसे यूरोप में लेके जाते थे. Besides Indian goods, the Arabs also conveyed Indian philosophy and science to Europe. Now this one is very important to understand. Again and again we are talking about this, that not only trade but also philosophy or the science of that particular geographical region was also exchanged between the countries. So Arabs not only conveyed the trade but philosophy and science to Europe also. The concept of zero is the gift by Indians to the world. The concept of zero is one of the India's major contribution to the world, and it was the Arabs who introduced this Indian concept to Europe. So, thanks to the Arabs जिन्होंने हमारा ये concept यूरोप के पास लेके गया, and then it is spread to the world or introduced to the world. So in the first point we people talked about India and the countries of the West, and in that the Rome, then the Europe and the other regions. This one is the map which is given in our textbook. India and Asia, the trade route. So this one in color dot dot dot, which is trade route. देखो ये कहाँ कहाँ से आ रहा है. फ्रॉम द इजिप्ट अगर हम देखेंगे इट इज फ्रॉम हियर टू हियर, और ये अलग अलग पोर्ट पे आ रहा है. फिर ये एक पोर्ट है साउथ इंडिया में, कुछ पोर्ट्स है. फिर ये यहाँ से होके इधर भी जा रहा है. ये सब सी रूट है. एंड देन फ्रॉम हियर ऑल्सो जो चाइना तक जा रहा है. Now the next point, India and other countries in Asia. So we're to talk about Sri Lanka, China and other countries in Southeast Asia. So the first one, Sri Lanka. Many countries in Asia were greatly influenced by the Indian culture of those times, and in that the first one is Sri Lanka. King Ashoka had sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sangamitra to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism. We people have already learned that Ashoka was under the influence of Buddhism, or he followed the path of Buddhism, and that's why to spread the Buddhist thought, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist religion, he sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sangamitra to Sri Lanka. Their names are mentioned in the Buddhist text Mahavamsa, रिटर्न इन श्रीलंका. तो ये बुक कहाँ लिखी गई है? श्रीलंका में. और वहाँ पर लिखी गई उस बुक में महेंद्र और संघमित्रा जो अशोका के बेटे और बेटी थे उनका नाम है. संघमित्रा कैरीड अ ब्रांच ऑफ द बोधि ट्री विथ हर. द श्रीलंकन ट्रेडिशन बिलीव्स दैट द बोधि ट्री एट अनुराधपुर इन श्रीलंका हैज ग्रोन फ्रॉम द सेम ब्रांच. अब ये जो बोधि ट्री है जिसके नीचे बैठकर सिद्धार्थ गौतम को बोधि मिली, ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ, ऐसा माना जाता है. एंड डेट इज द बोधि ट्री, उसे बोधि ट्री कहा जाता है. तो उसकी एक ब्रांच श्रीलंका में जाते वक्त संघमित्रा लेके गई, और वहाँ पे अभी जो ट्री है अनुराधपुर में, ऐसा माना जाता है कि उस बोधि ट्री के ब्रांच से बना हुआ ये ट्री है. देयर वॉज अ ग्रेट डिमांड इन इंडिया फॉर श्रीलंकन पर्ल्स एंड अदर प्रेसियस स्टोन्स. ऑन द स्क्रीन यू कैन सी द book Mahavamsa, the great chronicle of Sri Lanka, in which there is name of Sangamitra and Mahendra. And this one is the Bodhi Vraksh there. Pearls. It was a great demand in India for Sri Lankan pearls and other precious stones. In the 5th century CE, King Kashyap had caves dug out at a place called Sigiriya. The wall paintings in these caves bear a resemblance to the paintings in the Ajanta caves. Now the paintings in Sri Lanka bear a resemblance to the paintings in the Ajanta caves, which means that not only philosophy, not only literature, or not only trade, but also there was exchange in the field of art form also. The Sri Lankan Buddhist works Deepamsa and Mahavamsa provide information about the close relations between India and Sri Lanka. They are written in the Pali language. जैसे today we have Marathi, Hindi, English language. At that period, ancient India में बहुत सारा literature जो Buddhist literature लिखा गया, that was in Pali language. So this was all about India and Sri Lanka. And now the next one is, here you can see the Sigiriya wall paintings in these caves bear a resemblance with the Ajanta caves. And now the next one, China and other countries. Right from the ancient times, India and China had established trade and cultural relations. Not only trade but cultural relations. Emperor Harshavardhan had even sent an ambassador to the Chinese court. Chinese silk was known as Chinnashuka and was in great demand in India. So here Harshavardhan, who played very important role in establishing a relation with the China, he sent his ambassador to the Chinese court. So whenever we talk about ancient period relation of India and China, then the name of the Harshavardhan is very important. On the screen now you can see Chinese silk was known as Chinnashuka and was in great demand in India. merchants in ancient India supplied Chinese silk to western countries because of the trade route जो है इंडिया में आता था और यहाँ से फिर वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में जाता था. The land route by which the silk trade was carried on was called the silk route. क्योंकि उस रूट से क्या होता था, ये जो चाइनीज सिल्क है उसका ट्रेड होता था. और सोचो कि उस रूट को अगर सिल्क रूट कहा जाता होगा तो कितने बड़े पैमाने पे सिल्क उस रास्ते से जाता था या फिर सिल्क का ट्रेड होता था. सम एंशिएंट प्लेसेस इन इंडिया वर कनेक्टेड टू दिस रूट. नाला सोपारा नियर मुंबई इन महाराष्ट्र वाज वन सच प्लेस. ऑन द स्क्रीन यू कैन सी द सिल्क रूट. ये जो ओल्ड सिल्क रूट है आपको दिख रहा है यहाँ से. चाइना कहाँ से कैसे स्टार्ट हो रहा है और फिर ये कैसे जा रहा है, दैट यू कैन सी हियर. यहाँ पे भी हाउ इट गोज थ्रू इंडिया. अभी यहाँ पे हमें दिख रहा है कि द ओल्ड सिल्क रोड. Some ancient places in India were connected to this road and नाला सोपारा. मुंबई में रहते हैं हम लोग. आपने सुना होगा नाला सोपारा which is near Mumbai in Maharashtra was one such place. The Chinese Buddhist bhikkhu Fa Hien and Yuanchong also came to India through this silk route. And then after we know about them that who wrote many लिटरेचर ऑफ दैट पीरियड, या फिर यहाँ से बहुत सारा बुद्धिस्ट लिटरेचर वो उधर लेके गए और वहाँ के लोगों को बुद्धिस्ट लिटरेचर से बुद्धा से इंट्रोड्यूस किया. और उस वक्त उन्होंने जो राइटिंग्स लिखी है विच इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्स ऑफ हिस्ट्री. बट ये हमें ध्यान में रखना है कि वो जिस रास्ते से आए दैट इज ऑल्सो सिल्क रूट. फाइन Chinese Buddhist monk traveled along the Silk Road and visited India in the 5th century. He was following the path of the Buddha. He reported the people to be happy, relatively free of government oppression, and inclined towards courtesy and charity. Other references in the journal, however, indicate that the caste system was rapidly assuming its basic features, including untouchability, the social isolation of a lowest class that is doomed to menial labor. So this was all written in the literature of Fa Hien. And Yuanchong route from China to India. The map you can see. In the 1st century CE, the Ming Emperor of China invited Buddhist bhikkhus Dharmaraksha and Kashyap Matang to China. These gave impetus to the spread of Buddhism in China because the bhikkhus translated many Indian Buddhist texts into Chinese language. So basically what we are getting or what we are learning from this, that the influence of Buddhist religion was on demand. We can say कि हर जगह पे बुद्धा के लिटरेचर को माना जा रहा है, बुद्धा से रिलेटेड पेंटिंग्स या केव्स बनाई जा रही है, और अलग अलग भिक्खुज अलग अलग जगहों पे जो काम कर रहे थे वो भी एक जगह पे नहीं होते थे, अलग अलग देशों से उन्हें बुलाया जा रहा था. एंड बाय गोइंग देयर दे यूज्ड टू राइट literature or translated the literature into that particular language of that country's language. So this gave impetus to the spread of Buddhism in China, and later on Buddhism also reached Japan, Korea and Vietnam. कहाँ कहाँ पर ये religion चला गया then. And now next one, countries in Southern Asia. The ancient kingdom of Funan in Cambodia, where in Cambodia was established in the 1st century CE. Evidence is available from Chinese traditions that an Indian named Kaundinya Indian named Kaundinya established it. People of Funan knew the Sanskrit language. A stone inscription of that period is still in existence and it is in Sanskrit. So by this we can understand that the not only literature, not only trade, but there was exchange in between languages also. So in many other countries of Southeast Asia too, small kingdoms established by people of India origin had emerged, and these kingdoms helped to spread Indian culture in Southeast Asia. On the screen you can see cultural life or the impact. Indian culture had a deep impact on the art and cultural life of Southeast Asia. Dance dramas, dance dramas based on stories from the two Indian epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are popular in Indonesia even today. आज भी वहाँ पर फेमस है, बट इट वॉज स्टार्टेड वेयर ड्यूरिंग द एंशियंट पीरियड ऑफ इंडिया. जब ये सब कल्चर यहाँ का वहाँ गया, वहाँ से यहाँ आया, तो उस वक्त ये डांस या फिर आर्ट फॉर्म जो स्टार्ट हुए आज भी वहाँ पर फेमस है. This influence continued to increase over the years. In the ancient period, the Buddhist religion spread to Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, etc. And in the later years, temples of Lord Shiva and Vishnu, temples of Lord Shiva and Vishnu were also built there. So, not only Buddhist religion, we can say after that, things related with the Ramayana and Mahabharata and the other lords like Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, इनके भी टेम्पल्स बने गए और बहुत कल्चर यहाँ का वहाँ पर, वहाँ का यहाँ पर आया और इन्फ्लुएंस हमें दिखा ड्यूरिंग द एंशियंट पीरियड. सो इन द हिस्ट्री of 6th standard, in the 6th standard's history, we have reviewed Indian history from 3000 BCE to the 8th century CE, which is in short called ancient Indian history. So in the 7th standard, what you people are going to learn, the history of India from the 9th century CE to the 18th century CE. The history of this period is known as medieval history. In the 6th standard, you people learned ancient Indian history, and now in 7th standard, what you are going to study? Medieval Indian history. So today we are going to stop here only. So thank you very much for attending this video, attending this lecture.
Please subscribe the channel and press bell icon to get notifications.
So my dear ones, this is all for today. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, take care.